This is my channel and my name is Sig. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do what I call flowers in the meadow. Now this particular pattern is based off of a star stitch. So before we get started, I have decided that, because it's flowers in the meadow, I'm going to use a green yarn. For the sake of showing you this video, I've already gone ahead and chained 21 stitches in the green. And then I'm using this kind of multicolored yarn here. Its name is Vintage. It's by Karen. And this will show, or I hope that this gives kind of like a multicolored flower effect in the meadow. Okay, so let's begin. So we have our 21 stitches, and then I'm going to change color to the Vintage. And how I do that is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a slip knot. And then I'm going to put my hook through the loop of the chain on the chain foundation. And then I'm going to pull that loop of the Vintage yarn through. And I'm going to leave the knot on the opposite side from the hook. And then what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to have to keep cutting the ends and weaving them in later, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to weave in all my ends as I go along, and I will show you how to do that. But before we get into that, I will show you this swatch that I've already started. And I purposely cut off the ends at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. And this is what you get if you cut off the ends. And then at the end of my project, or when I'm finished making the swatch, I'm going to have to go back and weave in each one of these ends separately. Now on the other side of this, I continued on without cutting off my ends, and I'll show you that technique. And so you can see how on this one the edges are clean and there are no ends to cut off, except for, the end of my yarn when I'm finished making the swatch. So back to this. So we have our antique yarn in that last loop of the chain foundation, and I'm kind of tugging on that chain foundation just a little bit to hold the knot on the opposite side of the chain loop. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 3 more in the antique, just like so. And I'm going to take my loose ends and I'm going to just run them across the top of my foundation chain, and I will just work my crochets right over that, in effect weaving them in as I go along. So with this star stitch, it's going to start off as most star stitches do. I've got my loop, and then I'm going to put my hook into that first chain from the hook, or the second chain from the hook, I'm sorry. And I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through. And then I'm going to put my hook in the next chain, and I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull that through. So far I have 3 loops on this hook. Then I'm going to go to the base stitch, and I'm going to put my hook through there, and I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through that yarn again. And then I'm going to go through the next chain, and I'm going to pull through, and then one more chain, and I'm going to pull through. And so as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on the hook. Then I'm going to yarn over again, and I'm going to pull all that through, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch. So you can see how we've got a nice corner now, and we've got the beginning of the star, which is basically the kind of an impressionistic perspective of flowers, in my opinion. So now I'm going to go ahead and, like you would expect in a star stitch, I'm going to put my hook through the eye of the star, or the center of the star, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through a loop. And then in this particular stitch, or this version of the star stitch, I'm going to put my hook through that first leg, that single leg, and I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull that through. Then I'm going to put my hook through the base and pull that through, and then I'm going to put my hook through the next 2 chain stitches. So we'll do it once and then twice. So again, I will have a total of 6 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull that yarn all the way through, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. And so I have the beginnings of my next star or bouquet of flowers, if you like. And I'm going to continue on just like this. So in the eye, then in that first leg, then in the base stitch, then the next stitch over, and one more stitch over. So that I now have 6 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to slip stitch. And then I'll continue on doing that to the end of this row, and then I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, so now we're at the end of our row, and this is what it should look like so far. So you have kind of your bouquet of your flowers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to make my slip stitch. And then I'm going to put my hook through the eye again, and I'm going to pull up a loop. Then I'm going to put my hook through the base chain, and then I'm going to pull through a loop. So I have 3 loops, and I'm going to treat this like a double crochet. This is what's going to give my edging a nice clean look. So I'm going to yarn over and pull my yarn through as I would in any normal double crochet. But this time, because I'm changing colors, I'm not going to finish this stitch up with the antique yarn. What I'm actually going to do is do the last step of the stitch with my new color, and that'll be the green yarn. So I go ahead and pull that through, and then I'm going to turn my work. And in this particular star stitch, we are not going to make a chain stitch. In fact, we're just going to go straight into a half double crochet. So I'm going to take the antique yarn and I'm going to lay it over the top because I don't want any loose yarn. I don't want to have to weave anything in. So I'm just going to lay that over the top, and I am going to work right over it. So I'm going to so I've turned my work, and I'm just going to go right straight into a half double crochet. So it's going to be yarn over, put my hook through the eye of that star, and pull my yarn through, just doing my half double crochet. And then again, I'm going to do another half double crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to continue just like that down the row. So I'm going to do a half double crochet. So I'm going to do a yarn over, and then I'm going to put my hook into the eye of the next star stitch. And then again. So half double crochet into the eye, and then another half double crochet and into the eye. And we're going to finish up this row. Now, just a quick little reminder. So while we're doing this, take your loose yarn. In this case, it's the yarn that I'm trying to weave into my work, and I just give it a slight little tug. I don't want to tug it so hard that it cinches up my work, because that's not what we want. But just a nice little tug so that it kind of straightens it out. So I don't want my work cinched, and I don't want any extra loopy loose yarn hanging out from my weave either. And so I'll do that a couple of times through the course of a row, just to make sure everything stays nice and clean. Okay, so now we've come to the end of our row. And here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a basic single crochet stitch. And I'm going to, and so this is, I'm only one step away from finishing my single crochet stitch. So I'm going to drop my green yarn and I'm going to pick up my antique multicolored yarn and I'm going to finish that single crochet stitch. And then because we're going into the next round of star stitches, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crochet 3 chains for my turning chain. I'm going to turn my work and then we're going to begin as before. So pull up a loop, pull up a loop, pull up a loop in that base chain, and pull up a loop in the next stitch and another loop in the next stitch so that I have 6 loops on my hook. And I'm going to pull one through and slip stitch. And again. And pull it through and slip stitch. So what you can see now is, so I'm working on this in effect upside down, sort of the way the design is going to work out. So if I flip it over and you take a look, you can see, so you've got your green grasses here, and then up here is like your impressionistic version of flowers, right? So this is kind of multicolored flowers. It sort of reminds me of what you might see at the beach with the tall grasses that are kind of that muted dun color, and then they have speckles of the little colorful flowers in them. And then this would be your more duskier green lower foliage in maybe a marshy area. And then with this piece right here, I am reminded of a meadow full of dandelions. So all the green at the bottom, and then just the sea and sea of yellow that you see when you see a yard or a meadow just full of dandelions. So you can really use any color that you want for your flowers. So maybe you like purple. You can do, instead of the antique yarn, you could do a nice purple yarn. And if you want to add some more interest to that, you can use a variegated purple yarn. So it looks like a multitude of different purples in there, like, you know, as if you were doing lavender, for example, like a lavender plant or a lavender field. So that will about do it for today's tutorial. And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us. If you found value in this video, please click the subscribe and like buttons. And if you want to continue getting notification for my latest content, please tap the bell button. Also, it's very important, and I cannot stress this enough, stay crafty. And until we see you next time, bye-bye.